Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking into something really quite fascinating, a big shift happening within a globally significant tradition.
That's right. We're talking about Eid al-Adha. It's, a deeply sacred religious duty for Muslims worldwide.
Meant for sacrifice, community, really deep devotion. It involves the Qurbani, the ritual sacrifice of an animal.
And the idea is sharing the meat with family, friends, and, crucially, with those less fortunate. It's fundamentally about sharing and community.
Traditionally, yes, a time for reflection, giving thanks, sharing. But in Pakistan, things seem to be changing quite dramatically.
They really are. What's always been this profound spiritual obligation seems to be rapidly turning into, a kind of high-stakes competition.
A display of wealth, almost, something many people just can't afford anymore.
Exactly. It's becoming unaffordable for many.
And that's what we want to unpack for you in this deep dive. We'll dig into the economic pressures, the cultural forces, social media's huge role here, and also the religious angles.
All these things contributing to Eid sacrifice, becoming, as some are saying, a rich man's game in Pakistan.
And what that really means for everyday Pakistanis just trying to practice their faith. So let's start with the numbers, because they're pretty stark.
They really are. The cost has just skyrocketed.
Think about this. Just 10 years back, say 2015, getting a share in a cow for Eid, that would cost maybe 9,000, 10,000 rupees.
Right, which was about, $32 to $36 back then? Seems reasonable.
Yeah, that same share, it can be anywhere from 25,000 to 30,000 rupees.
Which is closer to $90, even over $100.
It's nearly triple the cost.
Yeah.
In just one decade. That's quite something.
And what's really puzzling is how disconnected this seems from general inflation.
Mm-hmm.
Pakistan's overall inflation is, around 7 or 8%?
Yeah, and economic growth is tiny, like 3%.
But then you look at beef and mutton prices specifically for Eid.
Mm-hmm.
They're climbing by 15 to 16% every single year.
Whoa.
Compare that to chicken prices, which are, closer to that general inflation rate, maybe 9%.
So it's not just everything getting more expensive. There's something specific happening with cattle and goats for Eid.
Exactly. It suggests maybe speculative buying, or maybe cartels controlling prices, or perhaps some unique supply chain issue just for these animals. It's not hitting chickens the same way.
And it gets even, more extreme when you look at the luxury end of the market versus just regular meat.
Oh, absolutely. You hear these stories.
Mm-hmm.
Someone buying a cow for 2 crore rupees.
2 crore, that's around $71,000 for one cow.
Yep, and let's say that massive cow yield, 1,200 kilos of meat. Do the math.
You're paying 15,000 to 17,000 rupees per kilo. That's like 54 to 61 rupees a kilogram.
Exactly.
Wow.
Now compare that to just going to the butcher for regular beef.
Which costs what? 1,300 to 1,500 rupees a kilo? Maybe $5 or $6?
The difference is just staggering.
So, okay, these prices are through the roof. What's the real impact? What's the consequence for, an average family in Pakistan trying to do their Qurbani?
Well, that's the heart of it, isn't it? What used to be a core act of devotion, something people with the means were obliged to do, now genuinely feels like a luxury item.
Out of reach.
Completely. It's effectively pushing people out, squeezing out regular folks from a tradition that's meant to be about community and sharing.
And the irony is the poor who receive the meat, they don't care if it came from a prize-winning bull, right? They just need the food.
Precisely. They need the sustenance. The source doesn't matter nearly as much as the act of sharing itself.
But this isn't just about economics, is it? You mentioned culture. There's this whole other layer.
Oh, yeah. There's a huge cultural element driving this, what you might call a flexing culture.
Showing off.
Basically, yeah. It goes beyond simple supply and demand. There's this strong desire to display wealth, and social media has just poured gasoline on that fire.
So tell us about that. What kind of extravagance are we talking about?
Well, besides the 2 or 3 crore rupee animals, which is, again, like $70,000 to over $100,000.
Which is just mind-boggling.
Right. You see people seeking out specific breeds, like long-tailed goats, or even importing animals like yaks. Yaks. Shipped to Karachi, where it's 40 degrees Celsius.
That doesn't even sound practical, let alone economical.
It's not about practicality. These aren't just purchases anymore. They're public performances, statements.
And social media is the stage.
Absolutely. Since around 2015, you've seen these online pages just explode. Billions of followers. They've basically turned the traditional cattle markets, the mandis, into, you said it earlier.
Like fashion shows.
Exactly. It's become less about the spiritual act of selecting an animal for sacrifice and more about who can flex the most expensive, most impressive-looking animal online.
And this behavior, this rich guy's hobby, as some call it actually messes things up for everyone else.
It really does. It distorts the entire market. Think about it. If someone is willing to pay, say, 2 lakh rupees, about $700, for a goat that maybe should cost 50,000 rupees or $180.
Okay.
Well, what do you think that signals to all the other sellers?
That they can charge more, too.
Precisely. It drives all the prices up. So suddenly, even that shared portion in a regular cow, which used to be manageable, becomes a real financial stretch for an average family.
So it's not just a few wealthy people overspending in isolation. Their spending actually inflates the baseline price for everyone. How does that ripple effect work? Is it just sellers seeing an opportunity?
Yeah, it sets this artificially high benchmark. Sellers see the top end, what the wealthiest are paying, and they adjust everything upwards, even for the more modest animals. There's no regulation, no standard pricing to stop them.
Right, no standard price.
And the people who really feel the pinch, it's the middle class. They're already dealing with taxes, wages not keeping up.
Yeah.
And now they find themselves priced out of participating in this important religious duty, or having to really struggle to do so because it's turned into this status game, this spectacle. They feel left behind.
Which must feel awful for something so spiritually significant. It really leads to the question of the spirit of Eid ul-Adha itself, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
Because Islamic teachings consistently emphasize simplicity, avoiding waste.
There's that verse in the Quran, right, about wastefulness.
Yes, in Surah Bani Israel, chapter 17, verse 27, it explicitly says that those who waste are like brothers of Satan. It's a very strong warning against extravagance, especially pointless extravagance.
A caution against vanity-driving spending rather than genuine need or devotion.
Exactly. And you see this emphasis on community and consideration in historical examples, too.
Like the story about the prophet.
Right, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, getting upset when some companions prayed in a way that blocked a public road, causing inconvenience for others. It highlights how important community well-being is.
Avoiding causing trouble for others, but that seems quite removed from what happens now sometimes.
Sadly, yes, you see streets completely jammed with temporary animal markets, causing chaos.
And the aftermath? Neighborhoods just left with piles of waste. It's a huge cleanup issue.
It is. And, I mean, there was that really shocking, grim detail from Karachi. A sewer line getting blocked.
Oh, I remember reading about that. They found a whole cow's head in it.
Yes. It's graphic, but it vividly shows how far things have strayed from that principle of community responsibility and care. It's not just about showing off anymore. It's impacting the basic functioning of the community.
It really makes you pause and think, what is the core message supposed to be?
And the core message is clear. The essence of the Eid sacrifice, the Qurbani, it's not about the price tag. It's not about the size or breed of the animal.
It's about the intention.
It's about devotion, about giving up something you love for Allah, whether that's your money, your pride, your ego.
There's another Quranic verse about that too, isn't there?
Yes. Surah Al-Hajj, chapter 22, verse 37. It's very direct. It is neither their meat nor their blood that reaches Allah, but it is piety from you that reaches Him.
Piety, sincerity, not the spectacle.
Precisely. Sincerity over spectacle.
Okay, this brings us to another really critical piece of the puzzle. The market itself. It sounds like it's basically unregulated.
Pretty much, yeah. The livestock market, especially around Eid, is largely a cash-based free-for-all. We're talking a billion rupee industry with very little effective oversight.
So sellers can just set prices.
They can set arbitrary prices. And the reliance on cash, well, that opens the door for other issues, like moving undocumented money.
How would that work?
Well, imagine someone wants to launder money. They could arrange a fake sale, claim they sold a calf for, say, 30 lakh rupees. That's over $10,000 paying cash. And suddenly, that illicit money looks legitimate. There's no real system to verify these huge transactions.
So it's not just high prices, it's the lack of transparency and accountability that allows these prices to get so inflated.
Exactly. Think about other valuable commodities like gold. There's a market rate, right?
Yeah.
Or standard price.
Sure.
With livestock for Eid, it's often just whatever the seller thinks they can get away with. That's what fuels these crazy hikes like we mentioned. A goat that should be 1.5 lakh rupees suddenly selling for double that, 3 lakh.
And that pulls the whole market up with it.
The whole market. It affects everybody.
What's really striking, though, is you mentioned Pakistan actually has a lot of livestock.
It does. There's no fundamental shortage of animals,
Mm.
which makes the high prices even more puzzling, especially when you compare internationally.
Like comparing with neighbors.
Yeah, look at Bangladesh or India.
Mm.
Their GDP per capita is actually double Protesty. Pakistan's around $2,500 versus $1,300.
Okay.
Yet, the cost of beef in their regular markets is pretty similar to Pakistan's regular market price, maybe $5, $6 a kilo.
So, despite having plenty of animals, Pakistan's Eid prices are disproportionately high. It's not scarcity.
No. It points strongly towards market manipulation, speculation, maybe elite capture of the market. Something beyond basic supply and demand.
This also raises a really important religious question. We've talked about the spirit, but what about the actual obligation? Is Qurbani mandatory for everyone, regardless of cost?
That's a crucial point, and there's a lot of misunderstanding around it.
Okay, so let's clarify that.
The Islamic stance is quite clear.
hmm
It is not mandatory to perform the sacrifice, the Qurbani, if you genuinely cannot afford it.
There's scriptural basis for that.
Yes, the Quran itself, in Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 196, touches upon making concessions when there's hardship. Financial inability exempts you.
But if you do have the financial means,
Then yes, for those who can afford it without undue hardship, it is considered a highly emphasized sunnah, often treated as an obligation, wajib, in some schools of thought. There are hadith, like one in Sunan Ibn Majah, that stress its importance for those with means.
so there's nuance. It's an obligation if you can afford it.
Exactly. But you see this nuance get lost in practice sometimes.
Oh, so?
Well, you hear stories of people going to extreme lengths, like going house to house asking for money to buy a sacrificial ram.
Really? Asking for donations for their own sacrifice?
Yes. Or even people selling off assets, like a small plot of land, just to be able to afford the animal in the celebration.
Wow, that seems to miss the point entirely.
It reflects a deep, often socially pressured misunderstanding of the religious requirement. Acts of worship like Qurbani are meant to come from your own surplus wealth, your own means.
So going into debt or begging for it is not right.
It's unequivocally incorrect, ethically and religiously. Soliciting charity specifically for your own Qurbani is problematic because it can exploit the generosity of others.
There's a saying about charity related to that, isn't there?
Yes, a hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari mentions that the best charity is what you give when you are self-sufficient. The principle is giving from what you have, not burdening yourself or others.
It sounds like there are some practical ways people are trying to navigate this, though, to keep costs down.
There are. Some people organize the sacrifice through religious or community groups, like Jamaat-e-Islami, for instance.
How does that help?
Well, they can often source animals more directly, perhaps focusing more on the health and suitability for sacrifice, rather than just the looks or a specific breed that drives up prices in the open market. You might get a share in a healthy cow for closer to PKR, $28,000, maybe $100.
Which is much more manageable than the higher-end prices.
Much more. And it also helps bypass some other worrying practices,
Like what?
like sellers sometimes injecting animals with water or other substances right before sale can make them look bulkier and heavier.
Seriously. That affects the meat quality, and it's deceptive.
Exactly. It prioritizes the show over the actual substance and health of the animal, which again goes against the spirit. These organized efforts try to ensure genuine quality.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. What we're seeing in Pakistan around Eid al-Adha is a significant shift.
A definite veering away from its spiritual core. It's become, in many ways, a spectacle of wealth and status.
Driven by this flexing culture, amplified massively by social media,
And enabled by an unregulated market where prices can be inflated almost arbitrarily.
making what should be a widely accessible religious duty feel like an exclusive luxury, effectively pricing out many average people.
Yeah, squeezing them out of a key part of their faith tradition.
So what's the path forward? How does this potentially change?
Well, ultimately, it likely comes down to individuals and communities making conscious choices. Choosing to, teach themselves and their children to do better, as one source put it.
Refocusing on the actual meaning.
Exactly, on devotion, humility, sharing, community responsibility, rather than the outward display, the competition.
It requires a conscious effort to resist the social pressure and the spectacle.
It does. A return to the core principles.
So here's maybe a final thought for you, our listener, to consider. Pakistan isn't the only Muslim country, obviously. There are 1.5 billion Muslims worldwide observing Eid al-Adha.
Yet this intense focus on spectacle and extreme pricing seems particularly pronounced in Pakistan right now.
It makes you wonder why. Why has it taken this turn here, perhaps more dramatically than elsewhere? Islam emphasizes discipline, community, avoiding waste.
So maybe the provocative thought is, with such a large global community observing this, there might be lessons to learn from how it's practiced elsewhere, focusing back on that discipline rather than the display. Something to think about.